A single drop of sweat falls onto a piece of ancient linen and slowly morphs into a glowing double helix of DNA, burning in the dark. For thousands of years, they sold you the story of Joseph and the wife of Potiphar as a simple lesson in morality, a good boy running away from a desperate woman. But what if I told you this ancient crime scene has been analyzed completely wrong? This was never a story about adultery. It was a highly calculated biometric breach, a targeted genetic harvesting. If you want a comforting Sunday school lesson, turn this off right now. Here, we only work with cold, hard forensic evidence. Welcome to the Zuleikha Dossier. Let us expose the ancient DNA manipulation hiding safely behind the mask of human desire. Forget the moral high ground. Forget the classical paintings of a seductive woman in a lavish bedroom. To understand the reality of this case, we have to strip away centuries of sanitized storytelling and walk into the real, breathing machine of ancient Egypt. This was not just an empire built on brute force, sand, and heavy stone. It was the absolute epicenter of alchemy, dark arts, and high-level occultism. The Egyptians viewed the physical world and the spiritual world as one interlocking operating system. When you step into this jurisdiction, you have to leave modern ideas of human romance at the door. We are not dealing with a love affair. We are dealing with biological power structures. And to crack this cold case open, we have to look at the raw data, the ancient text itself. Let us pull up the original forensic data, the ancient Hebrew. The word used throughout the book of Genesis for offspring is Zera, Z-E-R-A. In modern simplified terms, we translate it simply as seed. But in the clinical context of ancient theology, Zera is far more complex than just reproductive biology. Zera is a closed-loop genetic system. It is a physical, biological storage drive. According to the text, this specific seed carried what they called the covenant. Think of the covenant not as a religious promise, but as divine metadata. It was a highly encrypted frequency, a specific genetic code passed down sequentially from Abraham to Isaac to Jacob, and now sitting right inside the physical body of Joseph. This code was pristine. It was completely uncontaminated by the Egyptian spiritual matrix. Zera was quite literally the most valuable biological asset on the planet at that time. It held the structural blueprint for an entirely new nation, a new reality. And someone inside the Egyptian elite knew exactly what this young captive was carrying. Which brings us to our primary suspect. History and religious tradition casually refer to her as Potiphar's wife. Later extra-biblical traditions give her a name, Zuleikha. But let us clear up a massive intentional misconception right now. She was not some bored, desperate housewife looking for a cheap thrill with a handsome new servant. That narrative is an insult to the calculating intelligence of the ancient Egyptian hierarchy. In that era, the wives of elite, high-ranking officials were not passive background characters. They were deeply embedded in the religious and occult systems of the state. She was a member of the elite, a high priestess, a woman extensively trained in temple rituals, sympathetic magic, and the manipulation of physical and spiritual energy. When Zuleikha looked at Joseph, she did not just see a handsome face. She looked at him and saw a walking, breathing biological vault, a vault filled with divine genetic material. But the investigator must ask, why did she need it so badly? We find the motive hidden in plain sight, logged in the official title of her husband. The biblical text refers to Potiphar with a very specific, undeniable Hebrew word, Saris. In the power dynamics of the ancient Near East, a Saris was a high-level court official, but specifically a eunuch, a man who had been castrated to serve the pharaoh without the distraction of building his own dynasty. This is a critical piece of forensic evidence that changes the entire crime scene. If Potiphar was biologically compromised, unable to produce a biological heir, Zuleikha was facing a dead end in the ruthless Egyptian power grid. She needed a replacement seed. She needed a child to secure her future. But a woman of her occult rank was not going to settle for just any common low-level DNA. She recognized the divine spark in Joseph. She needed a premium, unauthorized upgrade. You have to understand how human history actually operates at the highest levels. It is not driven by politics or money or territory alone. It is driven by an absolute clinical obsession with bloodlines. The rulers of the ancient world firmly believed their right to rule, their very connection to the gods, came exclusively from their genetic purity. They guarded their DNA like nuclear codes. This entire incident in Potiphar's house was never about love or lust or human weakness. It was a cold, calculated espionage mission. The objective was to extract a superior genetic code and graft it directly into the corrupted Egyptian power structure. Zuleikha wanted to harvest the Zera of Joseph to breed a new hybrid elite. We have established the motive. Now we must dissect the method. To truly understand what happened in that house, we have to look at the actual mechanism of what we casually call temptation. We need to analyze this event through the lens of Techno-Theology. We need to look at it as a biological hacking attempt. To understand the severity of the threat, you first have to understand the architecture of the target. Joseph was not just a random captive. He was the carrier of a closed-loop genetic system. Look at his biological lineage: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. For 3 generations, this specific family line was kept in strict biological isolation. They were intentionally quarantined. They were forbidden from mixing with the Canaanite tribes and certainly forbidden from integrating with the Egyptian elite. Why? Because from a forensic standpoint, they were carrying pure, uncorrupted source data. The surrounding ancient nations were heavily involved in entity summoning, blood rituals, and genetic manipulation. Their biological and spiritual networks were compromised, corrupted. Joseph's bloodline, on the other hand, was essentially a secure offline server. It was the only hardware on Earth carrying the exact unmutated frequency of the Creator, the pure Zera, the source code. Now, put yourself in that room. Imagine the pure psychological horror of this situation. We are terrified today of artificial intelligence or government surveillance, but imagine realizing that your physical body, the very flesh and blood and nervous system you walk around in, is not viewed by the elite as a human being. It is viewed as a piece of hardware. You are a walking USB drive carrying priceless proprietary software. Zuleikha did not care about Joseph the person. She wanted what he was carrying inside his cellular structure, and to extract it, she needed a physical connection. In the modern world, we have been conditioned to view physical intimacy as a private expression of emotion. But in the ancient occult world, particularly in the high temples of Egypt, sexual union was a high-speed data transfer protocol. When the ancient texts talk about 2 becoming one flesh, they are not writing poetry, they are describing a literal, biometric merging, the sharing of genetic code, hormonal frequencies, and deep spiritual data. Zuleikha knew that if she could initiate that physical connection, she could initiate a download. This means the temptation of Joseph was never a romantic advance. It was a biometric breach, a brute force attack on a highly secure biological system. Lust was merely the Trojan horse. Think about how a modern hacker infiltrates a secure network. They do not just smash the servers with a hammer. They send a disguised link, an appealing image, a phishing email. something designed to trick the internal operator into opening the security gate from the inside. Zuleikha deployed the oldest and most effective Trojan horse in the history of human hardware, the appeal of the flesh. She used a biologically engineered, chemically driven protocol designed to bypass his rational, higher-thinking brain and activate his primal nervous system. She offered him power, pleasure, and safety in a foreign land. She was executing a massive social engineering campaign trying to bypass his psychological firewall to get him to willingly surrender his biological code. And the historical text confirms the intensity of this attack. Genesis chapter 39 verse 10 states that she spoke to Joseph day after day. In the context of our investigation, this is a persistent, sustained cyber attack, a distributed denial of service. She is probing his firewall every single day, looking for a weak line of code, a moment of fatigue, a single lapse in judgment. But what exactly was she trying to extract? It was not just raw biological DNA, it was the metaphysical component attached to that DNA. In ancient mysticism, they called it the divine spark, the frequency of the covenant. Zuleikha, as an initiated high priestess of the Egyptian matrix, could perceive that light, that energy radiating from him. If she could successfully execute this biometric breach, if she could harvest his seed, she would possess the architectural blueprint of the divine. Her goal was to absorb that frequency into the Egyptian operating system, to breed a new hybrid entity, a child that possessed the spiritual authority and raw power of the God of Abraham, but controlled entirely by the dark machinery of the Egyptian priesthood. It would be the ultimate hostile corporate takeover of divine property. The stakes were absolute. If Joseph fails in that room, if his biometric security is compromised for even a few minutes, the entire timeline of human history collapses. The code is stolen. The nation of Israel is never formed. The raw data is swallowed and digested by the Egyptian machine. He is standing in an opulent room facing a powerful woman, but in reality, he is a solitary security guard standing in front of the most important server room in the universe, fighting off a relentless biological cyber attack.
We have established the biological motive, but to truly map the architecture of this crime scene, we must go one level deeper. We must look at the dark, mechanical operations running behind the biology. In the highest echelons of the Egyptian priesthood, biology and theology were not separate disciplines. They were the exact same science. And this brings us to the most disturbing element of the Zuleikha Dossier, the weaponization of ancient sex magic. When modern people hear that term, they think of cheap theatrical cults or primitive superstitions, but you must understand the operating system of antiquity. Temple prostitution and ritualized physical union were not about physical gratification. In their minds, they were executing a crude, highly dangerous form of quantum physics. The ancient mystery schools understood that the human body generates a massive electromagnetic field. During the act of physical intimacy, those two fields do not just touch, they collapse into each other. They merge, and in the occult framework, that merging creates a temporary, localized portal, a dimensional tear in the fabric of reality. And what exactly comes through that tear? That depends entirely on the intention and the initiation of the operators. For centuries, the oldest ancient texts, from the Book of Genesis to the Sumerian tablets, speak of an unauthorized, catastrophic merging. The sons of God mating with the daughters of men, the creation of the Nephilim, the giants, the hybrid demigods. This was not considered mythology by the ancients. This was a documented illicit protocol. It was the deliberate attempt to pull a powerful non-human entity into a human biological vessel, to literally download a god into the flesh. Zuleikha was not a desperate lover. She was a master architect of this exact protocol. She did not just want Joseph to give her a biological child to replace her husband's dead lineage. She wanted to use him as a host for an entity. According to ancient rabbinic commentary, the Midrash, Zuleikha saw something radiating from Joseph. She saw a literal blinding frequency, the divine aura, the light. She recognized that his pure, uncorrupted physical vessel had the structural capacity to house a massive amount of spiritual voltage. Her plan was terrifyingly ambitious. She wanted to combine her dark occult initiation with his pristine divine frequency. Through the portal of physical union, she was trying to breed the ultimate hybrid apex predator, a new Egyptian pharaoh possessing the raw power of the Hebrew god. But the operation failed. The target resisted the breach. And this brings us to the most crucial piece of physical evidence left at the crime scene: the garment, the cloak. When you read the standard English translation, it simply says he left his cloak in her hand and fled. It sounds like a chaotic, frantic escape. But let us examine this item through the lens of occult forensics. The original Hebrew word used here is beged, B-E-G-E-D. A garment, yes, but in the ancient world, clothing worn that close to the body was considered a literal extension of the physical self.
Why did she fight so hard to hold on to it? Why did she proudly present it to the authorities? The superficial historical answer is that she used it to frame him for assault, to create a false public narrative. But the forensic reality of the occult is much darker. Zuleikha was a high-level practitioner of sympathetic magic. The fundamental law of this dark art is based on quantum entanglement. A piece of the target represents the entire target. What happens to the part happens to the whole. Think about what was physically embedded in the tightly woven fibers of that ancient linen cloak. Sweat, hair, dead skin cells, biological residue, DNA. She failed to capture the living, breathing host. She failed to execute the full biological download, but she managed to rip away a physical, tangible sample of the data. In the mechanics of the dark arts, if you possess the DNA of your target, you maintain a sympathetic, wireless link to their energy field. You can attempt to clone the energy. You can execute localized, targeted curses. You can manipulate the frequency from a distance. When she held up that cloak, she was holding a piece of his biological hardware. And this brings us to the official investigator's note. You must permanently wipe the classical religious painting out of your mind. Joseph did not run out of that room because he was a shy, frightened boy intimidated by an aggressive woman. He did not run simply because he was afraid of breaking a strict moral rule. He fled that room exactly like a senior scientist evacuating a level 4 biohazard laboratory the exact second the containment alarms go off. He recognized the biometric breach. He saw the Nephilim protocol being activated. He felt the dimensional tear opening, and he made a split-second, agonizing, tactical decision. He realized that the Egyptian system was trying to assimilate his source code. He knew that if he stayed, if he compromised the firewall for even a moment, the divine lineage would be corrupted forever. So he chose the only viable scientific option. He abandoned the physical hardware. He left the cloak. He accepted the false charges. He accepted the total loss of his freedom and walked willingly into a subterranean dungeon. Because to a carrier of pure data, a prison cell is just another form of quarantine. He chose the cold darkness of a cell over the permanent corruption of his code. He sacrificed the garment to save the seed. The empire of sand crumbled. The physical temples were buried under the weight of time. But you have to understand a fundamental law of ancient operating systems. The hardware decays, but the algorithm survives. The Zuleikha protocol did not die in the ancient desert. It simply updated its code. It migrated from the physical realm into the digital and institutional structures of the modern world. If you think this biological hacking was an isolated incident from a primitive era, You are completely blind to the reality you are living in right now. Where is the 21st century Zuleikha? She is everywhere.
Let us look at the highest levels of modern global intelligence: the CIA, the KGB, MI6. For decades, they have deployed a highly classified, incredibly effective operational tactic: the honey trap. An operative, highly trained in psychological and physical seduction, targets a high-ranking official, a nuclear scientist, or a military commander. The general public reads about this and sees a scandalous, embarrassing affair, but from a clinical intelligence standpoint, it is a calculated biometric breach. The intelligence agency does not care about the physical intimacy. The flesh is merely the delivery system. The goal is the data. The target holds state secrets, access codes, or strategic blueprints in their mind. The operative uses the exact same protocol Zuleikha used in Egypt. They bypass the rational, logical firewall, activate the primal nervous system, and force a catastrophic security failure. They use the biological interface to extract classified data. In this scenario, the physical body of the target is nothing but a compromised USB port. But the intelligence community is only playing a tactical game. To see the true, terrifying continuation of the Egyptian genetic agenda, you have to look at the apex of the modern elite, the Silicon Valley architects, the transhumanists. We are witnessing the exact same clinical obsession with DNA and genetic lineage that drove the ancient pharaohs. They are terrified of human mortality and obsessed with engineering a superior class of being. This is not a fringe conspiracy theory, it is documented history. Look at the late 20th century and the creation of the repository for germinal choice. It was, quite literally, a specialized sperm bank exclusively designed to harvest and store the genetic material of Nobel Prize-winning scientists and high-level intellectuals. They were hunting for the premium Zera. The modern elite are actively trying to isolate, extract, and sequence the highest-performing biological code on Earth. They want to breed a sterilized, hyper-intelligent ruling class entirely disconnected from the divine spark. They want to play God without the morality of the Creator. And then you have the cultural programming, the global entertainment industry. The dark arts of ancient temple prostitution did not vanish. They were just given a massive production budget and broadcast to billions of screens. Look at the bizarre, highly synchronized psychosexual imagery deployed by the highest levels of the music and fashion industries. This is not edgy artistic expression. It is the exact same sympathetic magic of antiquity. They are using highly charged, sexualized rituals to manipulate the electromagnetic field of the masses. It is an initiation protocol. They demand the surrender of personal energy and deep psychological focus in exchange for fame, wealth, and access to the matrix. It is the modern corporate manifestation of selling the soul. But the most dangerous mutation of this ancient spell is not happening in secret laboratories or Hollywood mansions. It is happening to you right now. We live in a hyper-sexualized society. The media, the corporations, and the culture tell you this is liberation. They tell you this is freedom of expression. That is the greatest, most destructive lie ever successfully coded into the human mind. The absolute saturation of pornography and digital temptation is a massive, decentralized, energy harvesting operation. Every time you open that browser in the dark, you are stepping right back into Potiphar's house. The glowing screen is the new digitized Zuleikha. It is a parasitic algorithm designed to artificially trigger your biological systems and drain your life force. It is a simulated reality that siphons your dopamine. It shatters your neurological focus. It literally extracts your physical seed and your divine spark, leaving you docile, exhausted, and easily controlled. The system is harvesting the raw creative energy of millions of men every single day directly through the optic nerve. You are not consuming content. The content is consuming you. You are being aggressively drained to power a system that despises you. The ancient spell has been fully automated, and right now, you are failing the exact same security test that Joseph passed. It is time to officially close the Zuleikha Dossier. Let us look at the final forensic analysis of the crime scene. The Egyptian Matrix deployed its most sophisticated biological cyber attack. They used high-level occult programming, sympathetic magic, and raw psychological pressure. But the system failed. The hostile takeover was entirely unsuccessful. Joseph, a solitary carrier of pure source data, successfully maintained the structural integrity of his biological firewall. He made the ultimate tactical sacrifice. He surrendered the external hardware, the physical woven linen cloak, but he secured the internal code. He protected the DNA. He preserved the divine spark. Think about the mathematical probability of that single, isolated moment. Because he refused to let his biometric data be grafted into a corrupted occult system, the pure genetic lines survived the Egyptian quarantine. The data was preserved in the dark, and ultimately, it executed the exact program that birthed a nation and completely rewrote the timeline of human history. The Egyptian Empire thought they had achieved victory when they locked him in a subterranean cell. They paraded his garment around as a trophy, but in reality, the Matrix only captured an empty, lifeless shell. The High Priestess was left holding dead fibers while the living code slipped right through her fingers. And this is the final verdict of our investigation. The historical analysis is meaningless if you do not apply the protocol to your own reality. The greatest threat to your existence right now in the 21st century is not a foreign military invasion. It is a silent, invisible, and highly efficient energy harvesting operation. You are conditioned by society to be incredibly paranoid about your financial data. You change your bank passwords, you install security cameras, you lock the doors of your house every single night, but you leave your most valuable, irreplaceable assets completely unsecured and exposed to the open network. Your attention, your biological energy, your reproductive life force. The modern system does not want to assassinate you. That would be a waste of resources. It wants to farm you. It wants to keep you docile, distracted, and permanently connected to the hypersexualized matrix. Every time you surrender your focus to the artificial glow of the screen, every time you allow the digitized Zuleikha spell to bypass your rational brain, you are willingly handing over your source code. You are letting them harvest your dopamine, your drive, and your spiritual frequency. You have to start treating your focus and your physical body like a maximum security level 4 biohazard facility. You must build the firewall. You must recognize the biometric breach before it happens, and you must be willing to walk away from the illusion of pleasure to protect the reality of your potential. Do not let them download your energy. The truth of human history is always colder and far more ruthless than the comforting fairy tales they sold you in Sunday school. The world is a biological battlefield. If you are ready to stop consuming the sanitized, heavily edited version of reality, if you want to help me tear open the next classified file and decode the dark mechanics of this machine, then you need to join the investigation. Hit subscribe right now, because the biometric theft of ancient Egypt was only the beginning. Next time, we are going to open a much darker file. We will dissect the anatomical reality of the Nephilim and expose exactly where their genetic descendants are operating from today. Guard your code. Stay vigilant.